thank you, Deepak, for doing this. This is wow. Blows your mind away. This is content we are hooked to every day. Of course, we can have a long conversation about your interests and how you do this. But right out of the bat, let me ask you, Deepak, how did this journey start? I mean, what made you passionate about content?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me here. Good to, pause your day and, go back in time. At times it always helps. But yeah, I mean, what started me around was, finished college, finished engineering, looking for a job. Somebody called me and said, oh, there's a summer job available at this network called Prime Sports back in those days. I said, okay, will they pay? They said, no, they won't pay, but they'll give you a cap and a t-shirt of Prime Sports. So for the lure of free merchandise got me started. I said, great, who doesn't want free merchandise? I started for free merchandise, and I still love collecting free merchandise. So
fantastic. I mean, that's, your next tip to get into the content space and become big. Before I came in, I was chatting with Deepak, and we were talking about, I don't know how many of you would know, we have more gray hair than most of the people in the audience. There is a building here called Masterpiece. Anybody heard of that? And knows why it is famous? Unfortunately, we are the oldest one in this room. So Masterpiece used to be the, headquarters of Star TV India when they created KBC. And right after KBC, they did maybe 15, 20 shows that ruled the roost for many, many years. And Deepak was an instrumental part of that team that created, I think 2000 onwards, till around 2006, the kind of dominance Star TV India had in the content space, it has never been replicated before or after. So tell us, Deepak, about that time that you worked in Star. What was it about? What fueled that sort of, amazing run and that momentum then carried on for many years, right? From 2001 to roughly 2005-06, all the content that was created, and then, how it ran Star.
No, absolutely. I think we're just stone's throw away from Masterpiece. So lots of very, very fond memories, lots of late night, rounds of brainstorming sessions, lots of, chai right across on the Sakinaka Road. So, so very, very fond memories. But yeah, I mean, back in those days between 2000 and 2006, 2007, I think, Star those days to me was the schooling for entertainment. It was really, I would call the kindergarten or schooling of entertainment. I think I was blessed to be with the right people in the right rooms with the right set of creative minds and business minds. So it was really good to see the kind of energy. And like we spoke backstage as well, those days were what I would call the fearless days of television. There was no fear of failure. There was no fear of what's going to happen. There was no fear of what could be the business case. But, at that point in time, I think Star was the what I would call the challenger brand and not the champion brand. So as a challenger, you try all kinds of punches, right? And they tried KBC, they tried the K serials, and most of those punches really landed well. And then came a lot of other new punches like which was the alternative programming. We did Channel V Pop Stars, which was first of its kind reality show. We didn't even know it was reality television those days. The term was coined many years later that, oh, this is called reality television. Then came a show called the Great Indian Laughter Challenge. I don't know if you remember that. That again was very alternative to
Sarabhai.
Yeah, Sarabhai. And a lot of the sitcoms. And then they started launching a channel called Star One, which was very alternative, which was very metro skewed. So these were lots of different punches. These were lots of different, ideas, starting up new networks, new channels, new demographics, new lines of businesses. So, back in those days, I think I was blessed to be at the right place at the right time, but I grabbed all the opportunities possible that came my way, and producing came very naturally to me, because essentially many years back I realized that I'm a storyteller. I'd love to tell stories in different ways and means and formats. So yeah, I mean, that was the golden days, and I would say more the fearless days of TV.
Yeah, absolutely. We all know, in our own personal lives, you need to be fearless to create something, truly innovative, satisfying, and that's true for businesses as well. And especially when it's backed by a team. I recall right after KBC launched, Z and Sony both sort of did their own versions of the same format, which did not do, which came nowhere near what KBC did, and then Star was unstoppable. Show after show. There was a time when afternoon shows would get a TVR of 20. It was obscene. These days one TVR is considered a success for prime time. Afternoon shows used to do 10, 15. Anything below 20 was, did not do well.
Yeah, it was not successful.
Yeah, I mean, 20 TVRs is, to give you again a comparison. Mahabharat used to be 95% TVR because that was the only show on TV available.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, I remember a little story from my logbook was, the Great Indian Laughter Challenge launched on Star 1, which was seeing very moderate ratings. It opened at a rating of 3.13. And, I remember back then my boss called me into the room and he shouted at me saying, "Deepak, what have you done?" I said, "Oh my God, what happened?" So, I said, "Do you know what you've done?" I said, "No, I have no clue what I have done." "You delivered a rating of 3. I said, "Sir, I come from a background of 0.3, so I don't know what this 3 means." So he said, "It's a great job done. So kudos to really opening up a new market or a new demographic and a new Pandora's box." So no storyteller designs his story to hit a certain TVR, right? So I mean, it starts from a basic need of telling a new story and a new format, and I think. Back in those days as well, there was always this urge to be the first one to capture the ground. There's no point being the number 2 trying to do the same thing, right? And most people after KBC did like a ton of game shows. Most people after Big Boss do a ton of other reality shows. But essentially, we are a network or a group of people who want to be the first to capture new ground. There would be success, there would be failure, but we would be the first to try and at least get there. And I think that's been the schooling since the early days at Star, which we kind of learned, saying that break new ground, get to the new frontier. It could be a success or a failure, doesn't matter, let's get there first.
Yeah, I think television industry, what they created in the 90s, mid-90s, all through the early 2000s, was truly path-breaking in India. Homegrown companies, multinationals like Star did that. It was what you call the golden era of content on television. Things have changed in these 20 years, haven't they? We've all seen the rise of digital platforms, as I spoke about earlier, and a lot of content consumption is happening on OTT. You are primarily a storyteller, but you started your life in TV, and now you're pivoting to also cater to the Gen Z and new age audience, which is on OTT, on digital platform, and so on and so forth. So how do you kind of straddle these two spaces? Because while as you rightly said, when you experiment, you innovate, that's when you taste success. And that's not happening on TV anymore, right? It's happening on OTT. But audience preferences, consumption patterns on OTT are very different. So how do you kind of straddle both the domains?
So, again, Nawal, essentially we are a group that are language agnostic, platform agnostic, budget agnostic. We straddle across all spaces. So essentially for a producer or a creator who has lived a fair amount of his producing days in TV, upgrading to OTT wasn't very difficult, right? Of course, we had to learn new skill sets, new storylines, new narratives, new characters, new trends. But to me, running both these races comes very naturally, purely because for me, the format could be that you have to tell a daily soap which goes on and on, or you could tell a 6 or a 8 or a 10 episode story. We essentially focus around the characters and the emotions. We focus around the motive of the character as much as possible. Of course, the formats could change, that it could be a little bit of a finite series, or it could be a long running series, or it could be a reality show. So we go across genres, we grow across platforms, we grow across languages, and essentially that to me is very challenging, and at the same time a huge opportunity to really break new ground, to try and capture new audiences in different markets, in different stratas.
So when you adapt, for example, a piece of content which is primarily run on big screen, so to say, to the shorter versions, and shorter versions could be many forms. Could be OTT, could be YouTube consumable content, could be short form content. What are the key rules that you follow, because you can't just copy the content that you've done for TV and paste it on digital platforms?
Essentially, it is always about a character that is either black or white or gray, and a story that you can tell around that character. The package keeps changing, the packaging keeps changing, the size and the scale would change if it's OTT or if it's TV. But essentially, it's really about the motive of the character, the storyline, the narrative. So essentially, the idea would be to keep it as simple as possible and as straightforward as possible. There's no point in complicating matters when you're trying to tell a story. To me, there are 8 or 10 log lines. Like we produced a show called The Good Wife. People look at it as a legal drama. To me, it is a storyline of a mother taking control of her life and really building up her professional life after giving up her the early days after the marriage. Arya, to me, was to everybody looks at it as a revenge drama. To me, it was the story of a woman standing up for her family. So these are essentially storylines that never tire. These are essentially storylines that are always going to be evergreen. And the package, the packaging, the size, the scale, the platforms would change. But essentially, it is these are the maybe 20 Bibles that we follow, that okay, the story has to be told in one sharp line, and is it really getting communicated in that one sharp line?
Yeah, very important. Tell me, since you started your life in the TV business, and we've seen the entire shift in the television ecosystem. Of course, there are attention grabbing headlines which say TV is dead, right? While that might be an exaggeration, but we all know that viewership as well as the business model of TV today is under severe stress, and that's how you see consolidation and so many other things going on in the television business. What would you say are the sort of, is there a way today to create a relevant television platform which can draw an audience? What would be the way to do that?
Well, yeah, I've heard about this line that TV is dead or TV is dying. These adjectives keep coming up every now and then. But, I just want to point out a little bit of a data. Yes, a lot of migration is happening towards OTTs. A lot of different content consumption is happening. People don't want appointment television. People want to watch as and when they want to watch. But at the same time, if you know what's happening on the free TV side, free TV side is going through the roof,
growing, yeah,
right? So how is TV dying? And, if there are people consuming that kind of content, which is, a mass consumption, which is tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities consuming so much of TV content, how is TV dying? Yes, there is very little innovation in the pay TV side. That is something as creators, producers, networks, we have to address as we go along and quickly address. Otherwise, yes, we would be, fast tracking the migration to OTT. But I don't see TV dead. I don't, at least in the next 10 to 15 years. Yes, over time, TV could become like print. It's available. Those who want to read will read. Those who want to consume on different platforms will go there. So it will essentially remain. If I were to crystal gaze and see what's really going to happen in the next 8 to 10 years, I don't see TV dying. I'm essentially a big optimist of saying that India is such a large country, 1.4 billion people. The OTT subscriptions are not even blurb in the entire mass of people that are consuming content. So we have to innovate in TV, that is for sure. We have to learn from what we have done in OTT. We have to learn from what the cinemas are doing across globally. We have to learn from what South makers are doing and really innovate on the TV front.
So that's a very good point you make. In fact, I want to pick you up on that. Innovation is content is the buzzword, across platforms. while we are talking about TV, but in today's world, we've seen what has happened with, the movie industry this year, for instance. It's been a very, very tough year. Barring a few releases, nothing else has worked. People are not thronging to the theaters in as many numbers anymore. I think this must be after COVID and never before that. Old movies are running back to back in theaters. It's been now 3-6 months. And given how stressed the business environment already is, both in the movie business as well as the TV business, how do you innovate? If you were a TV executive, a CEO running the ship, how would you go about creating innovation in content where your board members are sitting every day asking questions on bottom line?
I think first and foremost, I think in India the problem lies when you're trying to communicate to all of India. Like India has 8 or 9 different markets. We've got to really, pinpoint and say, who are we addressing? Who's the audience we are addressing? And then start telling the stories or finding the right formats or finding the right innovation to go to. The problem is when we try and find a story that one size fits all. It's impossible, especially in India, to do that. India, to me, is like the European subcontinent. There are 8 or 9 different content consuming, markets here, essentially, and extremely, territorial about their kind of content. So, the people who watch a certain show in Gujarat might not be the same people who are watching the show in North or in Maharashtra. So it has to be kind of thought through from that perspective. So I think we have to go back to the drawing board and really talk about key markets and target shows and characters of those key markets to really, open up the content, pipelines there. So essentially, I would take a step back and really understand that, am I trying to find that one story that fits all? It's impossible today. Because of the amount of content that is getting consumed or amount of content that is getting produced, it's impossible for one story to find traction. You have to find that one story, one market, and then hope it explodes out of there. And case in point being Narcos, right? It appeals to a certain market and then goes global, right? Squid Game, it appeals to a certain market and then goes global. We have to find that one show in Gujarati that goes all over India. We have to find that one show in Marathi that goes all over India and becomes viral. It's impossible now in today's times to find that one story that fits all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not about, just dubbing the shows anymore. You have to, bring in local language and cultural nuances to the table. Weave that, into the storyline to make it relatable. Having said that, there's still a Pushpa and a Jawan, right? Who cut across all of this, rise above all of this and appeal. I mean, if you read reports, Pushpa has perhaps done much better business or bigger business, I would say, if not better, in Hindi-speaking markets than it has done in southern markets. So what is it about, content pieces like these which just, rise above, all of those learnings we have? And
no, absolutely. There will be outliers in any game. I mean, there are Pushpa, Jawan, Bahubali, there are enough and more outliers, and they are essentially, again, revenge vendettas or stories that we've always heard or seen. I was reading somewhere that, Pushpa was very close to Dhar, the one that we watched. If you see the beats of the story, it's extremely close to Dhar. So essentially, these are the stories that will appeal, and you have to find the right characters and the right, stories and the right narratives to kind of push together. As long as the story feels a little familiar, but innovated around it, it'll always have an audience. And Bahubali, again, a family saga. How can it ever go wrong?
So if you again, let me look at the last 4-5 years, because COVID really is the marker in terms of how content consumption patterns have changed. We've seen this humongous rise of South Indian content. It has become mainline. I remember during COVID, I ended up watching a lot of Malayalam content, and I really took a liking to it. And we've seen a lot of Telugu movies do well, some Tamil content come into our drawing rooms. And you primarily started your life doing, primarily Hindi language content. What are the learnings you think that, content makers in, say, North Indian or Hindi-speaking market languages have from these, southern language content makers, because though they seem to have done significantly better in the last few years versus the content produced in the Hindi markets?
So first things First, I think COVID and OTT, did really disrupt big time. OTTs, the platforms actually brought audiences much closer. So we were sitting at home during COVID and watching all kinds of content. We ran out of Hindi content, and then we were finding new contents in Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, and Kannada, and Marathi and Gujarati. So obviously we started consuming more and more different kinds of. We started consuming Spanish content. We started consuming Scandinavian content, Turkish content, the Korean content. So I think essentially we came to get more closer to what the world was doing and what rest of India was doing as well. So I think they were looking at stories essentially to keep them very simple. Those are the ones that have worked. Malayalam cinema, if you've seen, is so simple, so clear, so I would say clean in terms of its narrative.
No frills at all.
Yeah, no frills at all. It's not about the production value. It's not about the star. It's about just a great story and a great script. Manjumal Boys. I mean, it's a very, very simple story. So essentially, if you keep the story very, very straight and simple, it'll always work. Lapata Ladies, it's a story that was waiting to happen, right? I mean, we've always heard of these tales that are happening, somewhere in these rural India. But look at Lapata Ladies. It's sitting at the Oscars today, hoping for a win. So so we've got to celebrate that. That simplicity is the key when it comes to storytelling. The minute we make this more and more complex, there are chances that it won't land.
But do you think when it comes to box office numbers or audience traction numbers, simplicity works in India? Don't we like over-the-top content which is like screaming at us, production values, and so many other things?
Well, I think Nawal, if you keep playing one hand all the time, people will get bored and exhausted, and it'll become predictable. You need a Pushpa and you need a Lapata Ladies. You need a 12th. Fail. Sorry. So I mean, these kind of stories are so simple. They will stand up and make their presence.
So true. I mean, for every Pushpa, there are 20 others that bombed. In the last
and it's not that trying to keep it simple will always work at the same time. But then you got to find the right stories. You got to find the right makers. You got to find the right scripts. To really try and assemble that. Essentially, for me, as long as you try and keep it simple, it will always work.
Absolutely. So true in both business and life. Let me move on to some of the famous pieces of content you've created over the years. Obviously, none more than Big Boss. It's been running now close to 2 decades in India, and reality TV is tough, right? While you have a star power to kind of put it up there, but at the same time that brings additional challenges, additional complexities in terms of being able to deliver. When there is a Salman Khan, how can it not work? So how do you? It must be very challenging to keep the format kind of engaging and refreshed every year. So take us through the journey of how Big Boss has evolved in the last few years, especially with the rise of all digital and OTT. And how you try to, refresh the format and keep pace with what's happening around?
Well, again, I'd go back to 2005 when we picked up the rights of Big Brother and brought it into India. At that point in time, there were 0 takers. I went to every network, every channel, every network executive to pitch this show to them. To them, it felt extremely risque. For Indian TV at that point in time. In fact, when I was watching the DVD at home, and I was watching the Australian version, I was scared that if my wife walks in, she'll think, "Oh my God, what Deepak, what's wrong with you now?" So it was extremely risky. So I mean, I it's been a journey from those days to really, adapt that show, localize it, and make this very culturally relevant to India. To now where we produce almost 800 days of Big Boss in India. In 365 days. It's unheard of globally. How
many languages now?
About 7 languages. Wow. And it's impossible. It's unheard of. It's a mammoth production. For us, Big Boss is not a show. It's a company within a company, literally. So literally producing 800 days in 365 days. So that's been the journey of that show. Hindi was a good success. We built it over time, slowly and steadily. Yes, we brought in Salman Khan, who really really took us to like new levels, new heights, of course, and we needed that marriage. Like it's like KBC and Mr. Bachchan is a marriage, Big Boss and Salman Khan is a marriage that was waiting to happen. So these are brands that are feeding off each other and really making the mothership bigger and bigger as we go along. And there came a time, when we were trying to migrate the show to Tamil, Telugu, and instantly it got picked up. Instantly it was a raging success. Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Marathi, Bangla, over and above Hindi. So, and for us, innovating this is not very difficult. It's a fun task. It's a fun job. We are a bunch of 20-25 people who are constantly innovating the show. We're plugged into what I call the Banijay group, which is really giving us international learnings of Big Brother, playing out in 50 or 55 different markets at the same time. So we are spoiled for choice when it comes to innovation. So I know what's happening in Spain, in Italy, in LATAM, in Australia, in Indonesia, in US, in all parts of Europe, So picking up the best such ideas. So to me, it's almost like the Olympics of Big Brother that's happening, and you're really picking up the best from each of these countries and planting it in India, which is why it is so refreshed at any point in time. One season feels different from the other. People would love it, hate it, but people would watch it. People, at the start of the show or the start of the season said, Deepak, where have you found these guys, man? Who are these people? And by the end of the show, people say, man, how do you find these guys? Who are these people? So, that's a journey in terms of
Do you
reaction.
audition the contestants?
Yeah, there's a screening process, auditioning. There's a lot of psychoanalysis. There's a lot of sessions in the back room that really the teams put together. It's a full-time job to find such people and cast them. It's not an easy job, but we have a great team that does this 24/7. So it's been a great journey. Learning from that, we now have MasterChef in 3 different languages, in Tamil, Telugu, and Hindi very soon, in Marathi and in Bangla maybe. We'll have a similar foray for Fear Factor, Khatron Ke Khiladi, that we are doing. So, for us, we are only looking at India as the subcontinent. It's for us, it's like 7 or 8 different markets. So there's enough and more opportunities here to kind of push.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, when you keep innovating with format, then obviously, you do well. And that's the other point now. You're not just learning from what's happening within the Indian milieu, but you are bringing global learnings in. And like you mentioned earlier, success of shows like Narcos and Squid Game has really taken content consumption global in a true nature. What do you think is stopping us from having a show of the scale of a Narcos and Squid Game on the global stage? I mean, India is a content factory of the world in many ways.
Yeah.
Number of languages, nuances, cultures.
I don't think anything is stopping us, but there is always a time, and the timing has to be correct. There was a time, 15 years back, it was all about Scandinavian content. Then the time was about Turkish content. Then there was a time about Israeli content. Then there was Korean content. Now I think the time is right, and I think the messaging is very clear, with Natu Natu going right up to the Oscars, with Elephant Whisperer, with our own Night Manager going to the international Emmys. So I think we are now punching way above, and being very ambitious that it's time that Indian stories now travel globally. Enough of bringing in stories from the other side. There is that 1 or 2 shots that we will also take. I think the timing, there's always a timing to such things. It's now really going to happen, is my sense. You can see geopolitically how India is placed. I think that will be a reflection on the content that is getting consumed. The Indian diaspora is huge. The Indian diaspora is a great spokesperson globally, in every different market, to really be our ambassadors there. So I think now is the time. The next couple of years will be the time for Indian shows to go global.
I think fantastic headlines for any of my colleagues who are sitting here, how geopolitics impacts, content popularity across the world. But, having, to add to your point, there's another very simple movie doing well in the global circuit these days from India, The Light.
Yes.
The Light Inside Us.
Yes, yeah.
Unfortunately, it could not get cinema time in India because Pushpa is such a big movie, so exhibitors could not provide it. But that's again being highly talked about.
Very
in global
appreciative.
service, global circles. Any other big boss languages planned now? You are already doing 7.
We are already doing 7. We could have a Punjabi version or a Bhojpuri version very soon.
That has to be, if you do a Punjabi version, that has to be, more sort of, I don't want to use the word vulgar, but it has to be, more.
I was talking to Kapil Sharma, who we produced the show with Kapil as well for Sony, and he was saying, Deepak, आप ये पंजाबी में क्यों नहीं करते? लेकिन पंजाबी आपको इतने
It's difficult to hold back when you do a Punjabi show. The censors will have a problem.
So why not? There could be a Punjabi version, there could be a Bhojpuri version. Why not? In fact, we're not stopping there. We could do the Indonesian version of the show in India. Like we've got, assets, we've got sets, infrastructure. We're actually wanting to make India as the production hub for this side of the region, really. And you may not know, many years back we did actually the Chinese version of Big Brother in India. Nobody, it was quietly done, like maybe 6-7 years, and that was the test case of it. I've actually seen, Chinese people in India on our sets having roti and sabzi with chopsticks. So that's the, how collaborative it, the show has been. So why not? I mean, we could bring in a lot of international productions. We could bring in a lot of business. Boost the production economy here in the country. So I mean, we're poised to do bigger, bolder, more ambitious things. I mean, like I said, we will always be the first to try. We might succeed, we might not, but we will definitely give it a shot.
Yes, we saw in the AV it mentioned about Croatia, right? Tell us more about that. What is it?
Well, essentially, Croatia is set up to really push Banijay formats, Banijay, ideas in that side of the region, which is the Southeast Asia piece. Indonesia mirrors around the content consumption like the way we consume in India. So does Vietnam, so does Philippines, so does Thailand. I mean, these are markets that kind of mirror the kind of content that we are trying to watch. So we have now a team really pushing the Banijay ideas and the pipeline in that market. And, we already have some quick wins on the board there. And very soon we'll probably have Big Brother Indonesia or Big Brother Thailand, and we could film it here in Film City. So because we have, like I said, 800 days that get filmed in a 365-day calendar, we've got enough of downtime still in those assets. So we want to monetize our downtime and really bring a lot of international productions to India and, create India as a global hub.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be amazing. Given the content factory we are to produce global content and, do formats like these. Let me kind of, pivot and talk to you about, what's happening in the business of content. Television we spoke about extensively, while, the rise of OTT has been the story last few years. But the business of OTT has been challenging, right? Outside of Netflix, perhaps, Amazon, we don't know, how they do financially because they don't report their numbers separately beyond, the amount of content they produce. The OTT space overall has been under stress last couple of years. Globally as well in India, what's happened with Disney and consolidation of networks and so on and so forth. What kind of, pressure does it put on content producers when the kind of guy sitting above you in the value chain is under severe stress? What kind of compromises, are a content producer ends up making, which would then impact the quality of the content you're producing and the success of the show. So just take us through, what happens when the business environment is under stress.
Well, yes, I would say there was a bit of a windfall during COVID and post-COVID when it came to consumption of OTT content and hence green lighting of the kind of content and the kind of budgets, the kind of stories, the size and scale of those stories. Yes, there was a little bit of a golden run and I would call that as a windfall. But it's, again, Nawal, we've seen the business over the last 25 years or more. I think these windfalls have come and gone. These waves have come and gone. But they've really not taken away essentially the fact that we still find new stories, new characters to be produced or to be created. At this point in time, yes, the budgets are a little under pressure, under stress. But at the same time, for makers like us who have produced TV, we have, upgraded to producing OTT. Now, can we go back to producing TV kind of quality or TV plus kind of quality? We can easily do that. So essentially, it is a gear that needs to change, and I don't see that to be an issue at all. That yes, there's stress, there's Good Wife. Trial with Kajol was produced at a certain point in a price point in season 1. When we went back for season 2, we had to reevaluate our budget. We had to reevaluate all line items, including cast and crew and production and everything. We reevaluated and repriced it and went back to Disney Hotstar and got the show greenlit. So for us as makers, we are extremely flexible when it comes to budgets, and because we operate at various price points, I don't see this certain mindset that is looming around us as a stress point. We deliver content in Tamil and Telugu. Those price points are very different. Kannada price points are different. Malayalam price points are very different. Hindi price points are very different. But we deliver across the board. So we are not challenged, or we are not pressured, or we're not stressed out by the current state of affairs. We are only looking at this as an opportunity for us as Banijay, because we have operated at various price points.
But is it happening in general? There's a lot of talk about how almost every Bollywood producer is now going back to the drawing board, looking at what is the star remuneration, how much, like you said, is being spent on each line item in production. There was a story on Indian Express many months back which spoke about it's not about the star salary alone, but all the paraphernalia that comes with star and the humongous amount that is being spent. So is there a similar lens on OTT content budgets also these days, where every single piece of content is being looked at with a sharper eye?
No, absolutely. As long as the money spent is seen on the screen, nobody minds it. If it is not spent on the screen, then everybody has a point of view on it. Yes, there is a little bit of a correction in the last 12 to 15 or 18 months, and rightly so. It should happen, right? All remuneration, should be proportionate to any business case or any business plan, right? It can't be outside of the business plan, because then it's going to falter, it's going to fold up very soon. So, I think all producers, all creators, all makers have to bite the bullet of correction happening as we speak. And most people who are cognizant of the fact have already done that maybe in the last 12 to 24 months. So, and as producers, we've done that as well. So, I don't see that to be an issue. And, yes, stars or celebrities or big actors are also correcting, and it has to be in line with any business case. If it's outside of the business case, it is not a viable option. Everybody on the table should make some money. It can't be that one person is making all the money and the rest are not. That's no business opportunity.
I think that era of star salaries being totally unconnected to what's happening in the larger business environment is over. I remember Raj Nayak, when he used to run Colors, telling me that during his tenure, at least, star salaries were, totally disconnected from what's happening in the market. But I think that correction, which was long overdue, is now happening. Before we finish, Deepak, I want to talk to you about the new initiatives that, Banijay has announced. You announced a partnership with the Nadiadwala, Grandson Entertainment. You announced a show, about space venture. You're also, we saw in the show reel your initiative on live entertainment. Tell us a bit more about these three initiatives. What are they about, and how do they take the Banijay story ahead?
So, outside of, unscripted and scripted, which is bread and butter for us, outside of delivering content across all languages in India, which is also bread and butter, in the last 12 months, we've been evaluating other growth opportunities and other growth engines. For us, live was a real extension of what we do in the unscripted space. So, we have the skill sets, we have the team, we have the assets to really push forward. With that in mind, we started sometime last year, end of last year, in 23, and we had some quick wins. We delivered the opening ceremony of the India-Pakistan game in Ahmedabad, sorry. We also delivered the Miss World earlier this year, and we will do a follow-up of that very soon in the coming year as well. So, it is essentially just taking forward our personality of being the biggest non-fiction producers to really now, going towards the live side. So it's very natural. It's a natural extension of our personality. With Nadyarwala Grandson, the partnership was to really, it's the age of collaborations, it's the age of co-productions, bringing synergies together. They are one of the biggest producers of big titles, big actors. We are the biggest producers when it comes to TV shows, formats, and big international franchises. So, the collaboration was very, very mutual, and we were, bringing complementary skill sets and strengths to the thing. So we are now, setting up a pipeline of a lot of these premium scripted dramas with the team at Nadyarwala Grandson. So that's another big foray for us. Race to Space again comes from this urge of really innovating and really disrupting the market and being the first ones to land there. Space tourism, as you may know, across big markets is a big thing. So we said, why not look at a reality show? Let's really find that one Indian who could represent us in space. In fact, I was talking to some of the people that, in networks, and they said, are you serious about this? This is impossible. I said, yes, that's why we want to do this. Very soon somebody's going to do this, and we as Banijay are taking the first dips at this. And, very soon, mid next year, the rocket will be going, and we're going to find that one Indian to represent us in the rocket. It's a full competitive reality show of, people participating, competing. And
I hope Elon Musk participates. That will draw an audience.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really that. It comes from that urge to really be the first producers, first creators to break that ground, and we want to break that ground away from the ground that we are used to. So I mean, these are initiatives, these are new forays that we are building off our strengths in the non-fiction and fiction categories, and why not go for more now?
Fantastic. That's an amazing story. While you're a storyteller, but Banijay, Asia, and Deepak Dhar's own story is, no less than amazing. The kind of content, the width, the depth that you've done over the last 25 years, and how it has kept us all engaged, and also keep it relevant in today's environment where the attention span we all have is of a goldfish. Kudos to you and your team. I'd like a big round of applause to Deepak. Thank you, Deepak. I hope it was an insightful, interesting session for all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nawal. Thank you for having me.